All right, and we're back. We're back with Jerry Spinelli, Report to the Principal's Office. We left off at Chapter 5 where we met a new character. We met Pickles Johnson. And in that chapter, the principal was telling Pickles Johnson why you don't bring a skateboard to school. And he did that by riding it. That was crazy, right? So, let's see what happens in Chapter 6. Let's see. Back in his office, Mr. Brimlow took off his jacket. What a morning! Many times he had imagined his first day as a principal, but never did he picture himself getting hijacked in a yellow bus and then hoofing it back to school with a pair of sixth graders. It was the best beginning he could have had. Not only was he going to fire the portly, hairy-eared bus driver, he intended to thank him. He had gotten to know Salem Brown Miller and Eddie Mott better than he would have in 3 years from behind his desk. In fact, walking and talking with them, he had been struck with the inspiration to invite them to lunch. Then the Johnson boy, yes, indeed, he was already getting a Plumstead family feeling. How he now turned his attention to a little matter that had been nagging him all morning. The sourpuss girl, Butthead. Starting with the A's, he went through the sixth grade records, looking for that face, trying to imagine it with a smile. It didn't show up until the W's, and even then, the smile was pretty skimpy. Her last name was Weiler. Her first name was Elizabeth, and her middle name, surprise, surprise, was Sunshine. Pretty ironic. Sunny Weiler was her name. She was sure she would be the first kid ever transferred out of Poopy Plumstead. The first period math, the teacher had made them write out all 12 times tables. She made sure she had gotten everyone wrong. For example, she wrote 2 times 2 equals 94, and 5 times 5 equals 1, and 7 times 3 equals 23,962. And that wasn't all. She did them in her super sub-miniature writing. This was one of Sunny's great talents. She could make numbers and letters so small that at first glance they all looked like dots. Wow. Most grown-ups found them impossible to read. Wee writing, she called it. It was perfect for secret notes to her best friend Hillary, and maybe also for getting herself kicked out of here and transferred to Hillary's school, Cedar Grove. She had squeezed the entire sets of tables, 144 multiplications, into the lower hand corner of the paper and into the lower hand right corner of the paper into a space about the size of 2 postage stamps. Of course, a pointy pencil was essential to wee writing, so she made a further nuisance of herself by going to the pencil sharpener exactly 19 times. Oh. And now she sat in second period English. The teacher, Miss Comstock, had given them an in-class writing assignment. My most interesting day last summer. Sunny wrote. Oh no, I wonder what she's going to write, y'all. My most interesting day last summer happened on the 4th of July. My little brother was lighting a cherry bomb and it went off and blew his nose off. He was groping around for it, but he couldn't find it because it flew in through the kitchen window and into a bowl of cereal that my father was eating. Only he wasn't looking. Then he took a spoonful of cereal and screamed, "A nose! I just bit into a nose! Yuck!" and the ambulance came and took my brother to the hospital, and they took the nose along in a plastic bag full of ice cubes so it wouldn't rot, and they sewed his nose back on. But the problem was when my brother came outside, it was raining really hard, and he drowned because they stood his nose upside down. Yes, it sure was the most interesting day around here in a long time. Sunny signed not only her name, but her home address and telephone number as well. She wanted to make sure the school's authorities could reach her as soon as they decided to expel her. When she finished, she looked up and found someone smiling at her. It was the dodo from the bus. What was it with this kid? He was 2 seats up in the next row, too far to smack or kick. Then she thought of a trick she often used to get rid of her little brothers when they were bugging her. She stared straight back at the dodo, stuck her finger up her nose, and pretended to pull out a boogie. She rolled the pretend boogie between her thumb and forefinger into a perfect little pretend boogie ball. She sat the boogie ball back on her thumb, dug the nail of her middle finger in behind it, and while the dodo's eyes got round as quarters, she fired. The dodo ducked, almost falling out of his seat. She fired. The dodo ducked, almost falling out of his seat. Sunny almost forgot herself and laughed. Shortly before the period ended, Miss Comstock was called to the classroom door. She came back in holding a small white piece of paper. She looked over the class. "Elizabeth Weiler," she said. Sunny raised her hand. Miss Comstock came down the aisle and gave her the piece of paper. The teacher's face revealed nothing. The bell rang. Sunny turned her essay and gathered up her books and joined the mob heading out. She unfolded the piece of paper. She read it. "Elizabeth Weiler, please report to the principal's office at lunchtime." Already? Did the math teacher run down to the office with her tiny, terrible times tables? Was the brand new school bugged? Did the hidden camera in the ceiling record her essay as she wrote it, or catch her flipping the pretend boogie ball at the grinning dodo? The principal's office? She couldn't believe it. Things were going faster and easier than she had even hoped. She could picture herself washing her hair tonight. Heck, before the day was over, she might be sitting alongside Hillary Kane in Cedar Grove Middle School. I wonder, what do you think? What do you think she's getting called to the principal's office for? We'll have to see in the next chapter.